Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is General Anthony signing back in with Rochracer. Roach, say hi.
Hello.
Yeah, and what we are gonna be discussing today in what you would call this some sort of discussion video about some news that Roach made me aware of that popped up on I think the Steam forum. Roach, would you tell the people what showed up?
Yeah, the TWI Yashiro announced that they are bringing in some new vehicles and an extra weapon, which I think has surprised everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite exciting.
Yeah, he mentioned that they're still working on Killing Floor 2, apparently. Some sort of zombie shooter we do not care about. And and then they surprised us because all what I have been told and all my sources said that that they kind of stopped doing content for Arrow or Red Orchestra or Rising Storm for that matter, and so I was very happily surprised today when Roach told me. So Roach, what are they bringing into the game?
Well, first of all, they've got machine gun. They're bringing in the MG-42,
Yeah.
which I am quite surprised at. Please,
Yeah.
Quite surprised.
Because yeah, me too. I'm very surprised. I know a lot of people had been talking about it, and yeah, the difference for all you people that don't know, the difference between the MG-34, that is the current game right now, and the MG-42. The only difference is that that the MG-42 was made by stamped materials. That means you have a big machine that just pushes out, parts for the gun that makes the gun easier to make and much more cheaper to to assemble, and it's just a lot cheaper model. Compared to the MG-34, and it has a bit higher cyclet rate, 1200 rounds a minute or something like that.
What was the rate on the 34?
It's something like the same. You know, it's a bit. I think it's about 1100, so it's a bit slower. So yeah, the difference between the MG-42 and the 34 is easier barrel access. You can easily change the barrel, and the cycler rate is higher, and it was easier and cheaper to produce. So yeah. So what's and my thought is as well that people, why are they gonna make it so that you can't Rambo, or what are they gonna do? I don't know.
Well, I don't think they can do that for a start.
No.
You can either Rambo a machine gun or you can't.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say you can do it with one and not the other.
Yeah.
And certainly doing it with the MG-42 is, to the best of my knowledge, well documented.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And I've in practical relations, I have seen it done in real life. On live fire with the MG-42, or a later model, it's called MG-62. So yeah, it's totally feasible, and it's something the Germans did, and it's a fun part of the game, I think.
Yeah. Well, as far as I'm concerned, if you're in the way, unlucky.
Yeah. So so it's gonna be difficult for me to understand why they did this, and there would be a lot of weapon in World War II that would be fun to bring in.
Yeah, well, I think it's they brought in the PPS 42, didn't they, for the Russians?
Yeah.
And they brought in a couple of extra weapons for the Japanese.
Yeah.
In Rising Storm, and maybe they're trying to, appeal to other sections of the community, make sure they're not feeling left out.
Yeah.
Or maybe they've been planning it all along. Who knows?
But one thing that surprises me is that the Germans have so many different weapons you could have brought in. Just to mention, they had all those Czech machine gun, the CZ 70 something. The Germans also used.
I don't know that.
It looks like a Bren. It looks a bit like the Bren gun. You know, it's the one that the British.
The Bren gun was based on the Czech weapon.
Yeah. So it's the one that the when the Germans took Czechoslovakia, they adapted all that. Yeah, so they had that in wide use in the early war years.
Okay.
So it's kind of difficult for me to understand why just the 42. You know, you have almost the exact same weapon.
The 42 is famous.
Mm-hmm.
Why wouldn't you want it in your game? Yeah. Everybody else has it.
Yeah, but I would have thought that something like a flamethrower on certain maps would have been extremely funny.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I thought on a map like Kessel. Imagine on a map like Kessel.
The trouble with the flamethrower in the game context is you need something to balance it.
But I think it's just for shits and giggles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought a bit more. Perhaps you know, it was, as we talked about in the last video we made. You know, it would be fun if the Russians had those spades and stuff like that. I just see so many options people could have done. They could have done. But we are gonna look forward to the MG-42 shit. Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm interested to see that the last sentence of the description does mention its drawbacks, with inability to have a successful sustained fire due to the amount of ammunition it can consume, as well as overheating its barrel.
Yeah.
Now, we all know about that, so, well, most of us do, I guess, but we're interested in it. But yeah, they've put that in. They wouldn't have put that in without having some reason to specifically mention that.
Yeah, Roach, would you read the entire thing up? You know, with that mentions the MG-42, please.
Yeah, sure. Machine Gun 1942. MG-42, a squad and mounted machine gun of the German army, is designed and intended to replace the MG-34. Firing at 1200 RPM, the MG-42 not only put bullets downrange but fear as well. One of its only drawbacks was its inability to have successful sustained fire due to the amount of ammunition it can consume, as well as easily overheating its barrel.
Yeah, so there we go. It's but I remember from Darkest Hour, the predecessor to Rising, to Red Orchestra 2. There was a lot. We had the MG-42 in that game, and that thing could overheat extremely fast. And you would go through ammo faster than you could say, you know, where's my ammo gun?
If it's gonna overheat that fast, I mean. How practical would Ramboing be with it? I mean, if by the time you got up the stairs in the two-story house, you'd overheated it and were having to change the barrel, and you're staring up at several dozen Soviets looking down at you for SVTs. You just be going, oh shit.
So it would be a lot of you have to make sure that it's small, extremely precise bursts. Of fire to
MG tactics.
Yeah, you would think so. That you would have to kind of adapt to it, but you know, a lot of people would be playing with it, and yeah, and you know, people will adapt, people will learn pretty fast. So
yeah, with the MG-34, you can. Some of the guys who, you know, are a hell of a lot better than I am, can hold down an area for a very, very long time with that thing, because you can just keep firing, you know, bursts, sustained fire for quite a long time. But if the MG-42 is going to be, you're going to have to put consideration into changing your position quite.
Yeah. But it's but I'm looking forward to see the new aspects of it, and.
I do hope the fear factor comes as well.
Yeah, extra suppressant perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know, some sort of Banzai ability thing. I don't know. But at least it's gonna
be a good mechanic. That would be. I mean, you do. I mean, that's why it's legend, isn't it? Because people are scared of it. I assume rightly so, but
yeah. But yeah, one thing I simply don't understand. A small thing we saw on that that mod thing. We knew those guys from what is that mod is called, where they have the monitor cocktail.
What is it? Immersion.
Yeah, immersion overhaul mod. Yeah, that the developers don't introduce those Molotov cocktails. They're extremely fun, extremely versatile, and just shits and giggles all over.
I never used them actually.
But it's it's an easy, fun way to make the infantry, the rifleman, a bit more effective, but also a bit more dangerous to his own guys. But
like we need that.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Moving on to tanks. Would you read up the tank part of the message?
Okay, well, we have got 2 new tanks. The first one is the T-70 Russian tank. I'll read you what it says. Designed to replace previous light tanks in use by the Russian army, and one of the last light tanks to be made before their fall out of favor for more armored and upgunned medium and heavy tanks. Featuring a small crew consisting of the driver and the commander/gunner, it boasted a 45mm cannon and a coaxial mounted DT machine gun.
Yeah, so I'm just pulling up here on my tablet thingy a T-70, and
it looks quite cute.
It looks like a little teensy wincy tank.
Yeah.
If I look at it here, length is about 4 meters, 29. It's 14 feet 1 inch for you on the other side of the water, and the width is 2 meters 32 and 7 feet 7.
What's its max speed?
Looking up max.
60 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, it should be. It actually doesn't mention its top speed, but it should be. It should be a fucking fast little thing. Yeah, 45 kilometers an hour. So holy shit. And the important thing to this is to notice that its horsepower torque thing is 15 horsepower per tonnage, so it means it's gonna move fucking rapidly.
I mean, it's gonna need to, but
and of course it's a gasoline engine, so but that 45mm gun.
Well, it depends if they put the later shells in it, and if it's got heat rounds, for example.
But
then it can do some damage. But if you're in that up against the Panzer,
you are gonna get blown the fuck out of the water.
Yeah, but if you can move almost faster than the guy can traverse the turret.
Yeah, it's a fucking 2-man. But
an
interesting thing to note is a 2-man crew, so you're gonna get fucked if you get hit.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're in a tin can.
yeah, it's a 9.2 tons.
Imagine you got that on Pavlov's, and you can zoom behind the wall, do a quick zigzag or two in front of the Panzer, nip behind it, pop a couple of rounds in its engine and be off.
Yeah, it looks. But I'm just looking up the different variants. There was a lot of different variants of this tank.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot with the 20mm, something with a 20mm cannon, and one with a dual 12.7 Dakishk. You know, the classic. If all you people have seen combat footage from Afghanistan, that big old Russian 12.7 machine gun, heavy machine gun, the Dakesh. It's a beastly weapon, but it mounted dual Dakesh. That would have been insane. Ah, shit.
Plonk that on the hill at Rackham.
Yeah, Dagger. Yeah, that would've been fucking awesome. Yeah. So yeah,
I can't wait to see if they can make it that exciting, because if it's not going to be fun to play in, then I'll be disappointed.
yeah, I remember the from Darkest Hour. I remember the Americans. There were a lot of tanks. That was that Stuart, the little tank called Stuart.
Yeah, the little one.
And that was fucking fun, because when other people played with the Tigers and the King Tigers and shit like that, you could just steamroll. And the fun thing, the Stuart had a canister round, so it was just like giant shotgun you were driving around, just going up to German infantry. Kapow!
Yeah.
And it had smoke, so you just shoot smoke towards that Tiger, and it can't see shit, and you just steamroll in behind it and try and shoot the tracks and something. But that was a lot of fun back then. I remember, just pedal to the metal.
That reminds me. I thought most of the German tanks carried smoke in launchers.
No, I think that's an older.
Or was that later war?
Yeah, that's an older adjustment to it. Okay, the next piece of armor that's gonna be introduced. What is that?
The Panzer III, which I'm quite excited about, because it's one of my favorite ever tanks that have been built. I'll read you what it says.
Yeah, thank you.
Panzerkampfwagen III, intended as the main battle tank of the German armies going into World War II, it went through several modifications and role changes as the German army encountered heavier armoured and armed tanks on the Eastern Front. It also introduced the standard 3-man turrets that became the standard for both the German army and that of the Allied powers it was fighting.
Yeah. So yeah, the one they got now is the Panzer IV. We got in the game now. So this one's gonna be the Panzer III. So it's gonna be the earlier version. And does it say something about what kind of, because the cannon, what cannon it's gonna be featuring?
No, it doesn't. I mean, the thing with the Panzer IV we've got now is still heavily based on the anti-infantry tank, the early Panzer IV versions, and yeah, it's not. It's only just been evolved into main battle tank, and the speculation, from what I've been reading on the forums, that the Panzer III version that they're going to be bringing in should be the same one that was around at Stalingrad, which is apparently the J version, which featured a longer barreled, high velocity L60 50mm anti-tank gun, which was actually very, very efficient. And,
But I'm looking it up right now, the Panzerkampfwagen 3, and I'm looking at the different gun variants. And main armament, it says the models from A to F had the 3.7 centimeter gun. F to J had the 5 centimeter gun, and the J to M had the 5 centimeter KWK 39mm gun. And I'm gonna look up that gun, and it's was the German 50mm caliber used in Second World Primary, and yeah, so it's the long version.
If they give it that gun, it will have enough to take on the T-34.
But actually, it says right here when I read down here, and it's actually not. It was not efficient against Pumas, not against the T-34s and KV-1s. So
certainly not against the KV-1s.
So it's actually if it's this variant, it's not good because it's only 50mm. So it's
the high velocity. If they give it the right ammunition, if they give it the heat rounds, I mean, certainly not from long range, but the ranges in game, it would be more than close enough.
Yeah, I can tell you the ammunition types. It's the 39 that was armor piercing, the 40 that was armor piercing rigid ammo, and then the 40/1 that was armor-piercing composite rigid, and then the 38 that was high explosive. So it has no heat ammunition. This is the same gun that was later used in the Puma. So it doesn't look like if you follow this directory of German armor I have on my table here, it's not gonna be what we expect.
Well, guess we'll find out then. That'd be.
Because it says here that the next one that they made good was the Panzer IV, because they gave it that 7.5 centimeter gun, the KVK 40, that was the higher velocity, and then they afterwards in 1942 they mounted the KVK 39 L24 for longer barrel 24, so that made it a lot higher velocity, but still
on the 3.
Yeah, no, on the 4. So I'm kind of I'm not disappointed. I'm just kind of intrigued why they went this way. Imagine if they bring in the MG-42, they kind of open the thing up for all kinds of war weapons. It would have been kind of fun if they would have introduced a KV-1. And for example, a KV-1 and an early Tiger. Imagine that, a KV-1 and an early Tiger, for example, or a Tiger, a KV-1 and a Panther, for something like that, you know. So they would bring in heavier tanks instead of going light. What I would like to have seen, as we talked about before, I would like to see the motorcycles or the jeeps or those light reconnaissance vehicles. But I don't know. What you think, Roach? Because this intrigues me.
I'd be worried about there being a bit too much clutter on the battlefield. If we had so many vehicles running around. I mean, I when I get in a vehicle like that and it's going a certain way, I do get tempted to just drive around like a bit of a bumper car.
But imagine on a map like bridges, you know, that the attackers would have a half track and an armored reconnaissance vehicle. To kind of get the things moving and all that kind of stuff.
I think armored cars could be useful.
Yeah.
You know, the 2 centimeter. What do they call them? Rads that the Germans used.
Yeah. Exactly. Those armored vehicles.
And what the BA-64 that the Russians had.
Yeah, with the Vickers or the Maxim gun, a Maxim gun up in the top. You know, it's. Yeah, that would be because then the Russian, the BA there, would have a bit higher elevation, and even though the German one would have a 20mm cannon, it would be open topped, so that means everybody could just from higher ground just shoot down into it. Stuff like that would equalize the you know.
I mean, if you're. I mean, if you're moving into a wish list, you know,
yeah,
APCs, you know, I mean, how many different variants of the German half track? All variants had anti-tank guns, anti-aircraft guns, mortars. I mean, one of those which you could drive to a certain part of the map and jump in the back and start shooting. A quad 20mm.
Oh yeah, that quad 20mm anti-aircraft gun. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Imagine being on the receiving end of that. Imagine.
Why not? They could implement that.
Surely. Yeah, just smack that in at Gumrack Station or something like that. Hey ho, children.
But on the other side, you know, say on bridges. You know, you get an anti-tank version. I mean, that thing's going to last 2 hits if you're lucky.
Yeah, and imagine people.
So you'd have to get them in the right place to fire it.
And of course, anti-tank rifles are just going to penetrate that shit like it's fucking butter. Yeah. So, and of course, when it's not fully protected, you just need to get You just need to get a couple of just have to get a bit of an angle on it, and you can drop that guy manning that gun easily.
Yeah, yeah. Take away most of the other AT, and you force the defenders to protect it as well, and you've got yourself a game.
Yeah. But yeah, that's quite interesting. But it's some interesting choices by Tripwire, and yeah, it's I think people are gonna be excited now. It's gonna give a little new life to the game. But I'm still mystified. And really, do you think they're gonna bring in more stuff, or is this just a teaser?
I think they will. I think they will. I mean, there's a lot of speculation they're going to do a Western Front expansion.
Yeah.
And apparently there is a hint about it. It's quite easy to find if anyone wants to Google the supposed hint about it. But yeah, it's a good start, and yeah. But I think from what I can tell, there's the guys that produced Rising Storm seem to be doing a lot of this development work. And yeah, so if TWI themselves are still working on Killing Floor 2, it's but I mean, Rising Storm's good, so to suspect they won't do a good job if they are indeed doing it.
Yeah, but here at the end, what is the time, do you think, on this? When it's gonna pop up?
I reckon November. And maybe at the very least they'll want it for Christmas sales. But yeah, I was talking about it with Good Fight to Get Some this morning, and it wouldn't be a surprise if they brought this content out like they did with the last one with a couple of maps.
Yeah, okay.
As well, which would be awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, people. So if you're gonna be interested in those different vehicles and the guns, I'm gonna put a link in the subscription, both to the thread Roach were talking about with the hints about the Western Front expansion, and if you guys want to see or hear Roach and I do, and perhaps some of the other guys from Russian Resistance talk about what we would like out of a Western Front expansion or a standalone game to this, let us know in the comments, and we will try to oblige you. We will of course not bore you if you're not interested, but let us know. And I'm gonna put links to all those weapons, the two tanks, so you can read up on them yourself, and the MG-42 of course. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Do you got any more to add, Roach?
No, there was just a last comment on that. They're gonna add a couple of seats into the German half track. But,
oh, okay.
That's no big deal.
Nah, yeah. Who cares? Who cares? So yeah, so that's pretty much it. So this is me and Roach signing back out. So bye bye. Say bye, Roach.
Bye, Roach.